definitely doing research, asking the questions, looking for different lines.
Incorporating all of that background and history and story that makes it such a rich thing to share with people.
I love my downtown. I want to make sure that it's back to the way it was whenever I was a child.
This episode of Main Street Matters is brought to you by Wood Underwear, Marchesi Ginfrati Neckwear, and Inspiro Tequila. I'm your host, Terresa Zimmerman. Hi, I'm Terresa Zimmerman with Main Street Matters, and today we have Stephanie Knoppe from Joe Lawrence's Haberdashery in Poplar Bluff. Welcome, Stephanie.
Oh, hi, how are you?
I hope I got all that right.
Yes, you did. You're good.
Okay, good. So you just started this business.
Yes.
This year. This is a new one for us, and I'm sure this is a new one for you to have to talk about this new store on a podcast.
Yes, it is.
Can you tell us about it? Tell us your vision, your mission. How's it coming together?
Well, we actually started, my husband and I started a business 2 years ago downtown, and it was actually a resale shop. And so I was reselling used prom dresses, and it kind of grew and exploded. And so then we started dabbling in buying new dresses, and then it exploded and even more. And I was like, okay, the spot I'm in that I'm renting, I mean, it's great. It's cheaper and it's downtown where I want to be, but it's just not big enough. And my husband's like, so what do you want to do? I was like, I want to buy this building. And he's like, okay, fine. And then he's like, well, while we're at it, we probably should buy the building next door because it needs a lot of work. I was like, yeah, we could probably get it, reasonable. Let's just go for it. And so we got the first building up and done and got the dress shop moved in. And of course, it just took off even more so. And then the third building came open, and the guy that owned it, he's like, hey, somebody, you want to look at the building? Do you want to buy it? Do you want to put something in there? And so I came and looked at it, made my husband come and look at it. Then I looked at it again. I knew what the building was because I'm a real estate agent. So I knew what it was. I had actually sold it to that owner. And then I was like, well, this would be the perfect spot. My husband and I have been talking about a men's store. We really don't have a lot here. Most of the time they have to drive far away to find decent ties, dress shirts, dress pants, and just clothes in general for men. There's just not a lot of places for them. The idea just took off, and we went ahead and bit the bullet and bought the building, and then started into another downtown renovation that took a lot longer than I expected. And so our goal was to open up in November of last year, right before Christmas, and we didn't hit May until this year. Just a lot of hiccups with the construction and timeline and contractors getting in here and getting stuff done. So it's still really new. It's still a slower process. People are finding us, a little bit more every day. But the biggest struggle is trying to figure out exactly what I need in the store. Like what fits, what's the best. We tried bringing in products that people have not heard of and lines that people have not heard of, and it will pull some people in, but not a lot. So now we're kind of going back to the drawing board to figure out, do we pull in a name that people around here have heard, at least have something, a staple to where everybody knows the name to get them in the store. We offer beard oils, ties, cufflinks, which you can't find cufflinks hardly anywhere around here, hats, t-shirts, I mean, just your basic clothing stuff, dress socks, and then we've got soaps, body, bathroom care stuff, and then I also have whiskey glasses and whiskey decanter line too. So it's just a little bit of everything.
Nice. Well, the brands listening to our show, they're going to be reaching out to you soon, and probably trying to become your main brand to be the draw.
We're trying to finesse, like what do we want to have? What's going to fit our store best? And of course, I'm up for trying anything, just to get people in the door. We do have a goal to have a little bit more higher end clothing. But at the same time, the shorts and the t-shirts, those are smaller staple things that everybody always needs. So it's going to bring them in to the store regardless,
right.
To buy. Not everybody always needs a long sleeve dress shirt and a tie every day. So we're just trying to find a good balance.
Yeah. Sportswear is definite staple I'm seeing in other finer men's stores for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. Your exposed brick wall back there is gorgeous.
Thank you.
That part original to the building?
Yes, so when we bought the building, they'd already exposed that wall. The other wall has not been exposed. It's actually still got, like, I guess, the original plaster on it, and our hardwood floors are original as well.
So tell us about your customer right now. I understand it's kind of a work in progress, but who's your customer now when you open?
I have mainly, I hate to say middle age, mainly men my age, guys that I went to high school with.
Mhm.
Some of the attorneys in town that are close, they'll walk down. The courthouse is just a block away from us, so they'll walk down, grab a tie, a dress shirt if they need it. So, it's still slow. We're still trying to figure out how to pull in that younger crowd just a little bit.
Mhm.
So we've picked up Cactus Alley hats and American Needle t-shirts, which kind of has the retro throwback to like the 80s, which my husband picked out, of course, but just trying to bring in a little bit of everybody. We're
Yeah,
trying to make it a well-rounded store.
right. Well, courthouse definitely is good for that shirt and tie business.
Yes.
Yeah. How are you buying? Are you reaching out to brands directly? Have you found the shows? I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people out there just starting these businesses as well or wanting to start them. I think your startup story is really fascinating. How are you starting this out from the buying aspect?
So our very first show was last July. We went to Vegas.
Okay.
And we found a, belt company. We have Marco Valentino, which I love the belts. They're great. We've sold them really well. Then I found, a tie company that has tons of ties, and they've been wonderful to deal with. Some of course, demographics. So, Vegas, a lot of the clothes are a little bit more modern fit there or urban style. We did go to Dallas market in July of this year, for a quick weekend and, checked out a few lines down there. That's where we found the American Needle and Cactus Alley, and just on different platforms, that the different shows use to do ordering. I've reached out a few, and that's how I found Wood. Actually, was off one of those platforms, looking around, and we just got that in last week. So hoping that that takes off. Just trying to research and look at, what I need, what I feel I'm lacking in. Still trying to figure out the jean line that we want. I wasn't really super hip on having a lot of jeans, but I've had a lot of people ask for certain jeans because you can't find them or whatever, or they're at a store in town that they don't really want to go to. So just trying to figure out exactly what we want to carry in that aspect. But yeah, market is definitely, I would say, a good learning experience. It's a little overwhelming depending on which one you go to. Dallas or Vegas was extremely overwhelming for the first time market. Dallas was a lot easier to maneuver. To me, it was anyway. It didn't seem so crazy. So that's kind of our thing.
Pick one of those shows. How did you plan your time? I mean, if Vegas was your first one, how did you decide how you were going to spend your time at that show?
We winged it,
Okay.
honestly. I had a friend that owned a ladies' boutique in town, and her husband and her mom and stepdad were going to Vegas for the show to pick out stuff for her shop. And she's like, that would be a good one. You should go. And so I finagled things around and made it to where my husband and I went. We actually stayed in the same hotel with them. We were on the same flight with them. I mean, everything just panned out to where we were all together coincidentally. So I kind of had her as a guide to get me started through the markets because she'd been to a lot of them. And so that definitely helped out, and having her there to just kind of give us the ropes. And then, of course, I spent a little bit of time with her looking at girls' clothes. I was like, "Ooh, that's really cute," and so she'd pick some stuff out. And then, my husband and I went over to the men's market and started looking there. And the very first day, we just kind of looked. We walked around and looked at different stuff and who was there. And then we kind of like made mental notes of which ones really stood out to us that we wanted to like visit with in depth. Then we went back.
Mhm.
And that's when we actually started doing the ordering and the picking out and the selection of what we wanted. And that's where we found the ties. We found Project Raw, Bespoke, which is from Miami. So we picked up those guys and the belts in Vegas.
Great. And then how did you do with that first buy?
It was okay. It was a little like, you start seeing the numbers and you're just like,
Yeah, right.
this is a lot of money. But then, another thing I've learned is to definitely pay attention to your cost and the resale value. Like what's your margin? Paying close attention to your margins. And I hate to say sometimes a better margin is not always the best if the product's not as good as what, the other product. So kind of balancing out your quality as well.
And then the show that you went to after that, what did you change when you went to that show?
When we went to Dallas, honestly, we had a few lines that I was really, really dead set on looking into. And of course, where we are at, some of the lines, they're like, oh, well, we won't sell to somebody else in that store in that area because they've already got it. And I'm like, I really want this particular line. And I get not selling because somebody else already has it. And they're like, well, most of the time you have to be 3 miles away from each other. And that store is 2.95 miles from me. So, like, right there, so close. But then they're like, but your demographic is so small we can't sell to you right now, but they're like, check back at Christmas in December because if she's not done a reorder, then we can open it up to you, which is fine. But at the same time, the other flip side of the deal is I'm looking to fill my store,
Yeah.
and so I may not wait till December and I may just skip that line. I mean, I've not had people coming in and specifically asking for that line. So, of course, our traffic flow is still slow. We're still building up the traffic flow coming in and out. Some weekends are, crazy. We're only open Thursday, Friday, and Saturday,
Oh, wow.
um,
Okay.
mainly because of just where we are. That's usually when people shop around here is more Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And of course, juggling the dress shop and the real estate as well. It just worked out better.
You are wearing a
Yes.
lot of hats.
Yes. Some lines want a lot of money up front. I mean, like minimum orders are quite a good chunk of change. And you're like, that's, a good chunk of money for a line that may or may not do good.
Mhm.
And ironically, that line was also carried at another store in town, and she's not had to do any reorders with that company. So either that tells me that no one likes it around here because
Mhm.
they're not buying it from that other store. So once we got down there and just kind of had a few things in mind, I ended up finding a company that had just your basic dress pants and sports coats. And that's something that we've been looking for and going to dabble into for the attorneys and the doctors and just the businessmen, realtors. A lot of the guys that I work with do wear sports coats. So getting that in here. And then the other thing that was on the radar was a golf line because we do have two golf courses here. And I have lots of golfers and I'm friends with a lot of guys that are always on the golf course. And while I was actually there at market looking, I actually called one of them on FaceTime and said, look at this golf line. Look at these shirts. Would you wear these? Do you like the style? Do you like the print? Would you wear this? And he's like, sure. I was like, okay. So that was the cue that was probably going to be a good fit. So that order should be coming in soon.
Great. I mean, customer research is the best.
Yes. Yeah, and I have a lot of them. 'em. I'll call them. I have, like, a lot of guy friends. I'll be like, "Hey, would you wear this? What about this?" Or, "Do you like this?" And I ask them a lot. Is there a certain brand that you want? Is there something that you like,
Mhm.
that you have to drive to find? Give me some names. I'll research it and see if I can get it.
Back to the conflict with some of the brands, have you talked to other stores about what they do when they've run into a conflict with a brand that they really want in their store?
Um, no, mainly because there's a few boutiques around here. There's
Oh,
definitely a lot more women boutiques than the men's for
sure.
sure. But those I mean, I hate to say I don't really talk to them a lot.
Yeah.
If you're not downtown, I probably don't see you.
Oh,
Um, I usually, first mornings, every morning hit the coffee shop downtown. I'm just a downtown girl. I love my downtown.
yeah.
And building it back up is, a very important part of my life. Like, I want to make sure that it's back to the way it was whenever I was a child. I have very small memories of it.
Well, it might be interesting if we can get some of our listeners, the other store owners, to chime in about what they do with conflict. They're out of your area, but if people face
Right.
it across the whole
Yes.
country. So yeah,
Yes. And then it's, to me, it's like, well, there's a conflict with getting it. Do I really need this brand? I mean,
right.
I get them
Yeah,
cutting stuff, but even like the brand that I get all my wine glasses from, my best friend Lee, she's down the road and she has a gift shop and a restaurant. Well, she orders from them too. And I mean, either one of us could be like, we want to be exclusive for our area, but we don't do that to each other because
right,
she knows what I'm ordering and I know what she's ordering, so we don't order the same thing. We
right.
order the opposites. Same with my friend Tad, who opened up in one of my other buildings downtown that we bought. He's got a gift shop and a framing shop, and so when it comes to the men's products and men's soaps, I mean, he's got a line that I absolutely love, and I'll go down there and buy it for my husband, but I will not go buy it for my store. I find other soap lines that I like just equally as well, and I order those for my store. So whenever I say we work very, very well together and we all support each other a lot.
That's great. Yeah, there's always a way around the conflict. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah. So you were starting to talk about downtown being so important to you. Can you talk a little bit about the role you're playing downtown? Sounds like
Sure.
sounds like it's revitalizing.
Right. It is. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I actually a little bit longer than that. One of my friends got appointed to the downtown director, and she needed more board members. And so we were talking in passing, and I told her, I'd always had the love for downtown, and she encouraged me to apply to be on her board. And I did. And I was on the board with her for 3 years that she was there. And then a new girl came in, and I was with her the last year. Unfortunately, in that first year, there was a lot of conflict between me and her on just how things were being done, and so I didn't even bother trying to reapply because I knew it was just not going to go anywhere. So I just kind of stepped away and just kind of laid low, worked on listing my downtown buildings and still trying to build up the downtown with anybody that I thought had the same vision and drive and the money to do what needs to be done with some of these buildings. And then, of course, when we opened the dress shop, and then that just opened up the gate to where my husband and I end up buying the three in a row. So I have three buildings that connect each other in a row on Main Street. And then we end up buying our last one on Vine Street just a few months ago. With that, then I moved the dress shop up, on Main Street. And everybody's like, well, aren't you scared? Downtown's not that great. I'm like, it's really not that bad. Y And they're like, "Well, we just don't go down there." I'm like, "Well, that's part of the problem. You're just going off what you hear. You're not going off what you see." And they're like, "Well, aren't you nervous?" And I'm like, "No, I don't care." I mean, I'm there till like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night sometimes by myself working at my shop. And they're like, "Oh my gosh." I'm like, "It's fine, people, seriously." And so then we got the idea to do the men's store, which that came about because my husband and I went on a weekend getaway, and we went to an old historic downtown that had a bunch of shops, which is my favorite thing to do. And he's like, okay, we went in all these shops and there's not any men's store. There's nothing for men. Everything is around women. And I said, you're right. There's everything for women and nothing for men. And so that's when the men's store idea kind of came into play. And then it just took us a while to buy the third building and move on it, which ironically, the building that the men's store is in had always been one of my favorites, and I loved this building, and I knew it had major potential. They actually had an old staircase that previous owners had covered up, and then they put a staircase in the back, and the staircase up front was, like, gorgeous, had, beautiful handrails, just just amazing, and they covered it up, and I'm like, "That's the first thing that we're uncovering," and so as soon as the guys got in here, we ripped up all the floor out of the way, all the boards, so I could actually see the staircase. And, of course, as going through the renovations, we found old tags from the 40s and the 50s that said Gravers on them because this was Gravers in the 40s and the 50s. And then somewhere after that, it changed over to Montgomery and Cope, which was a men's store. And then Montgomery and Cope separated, and Montgomery went north of town and Cope stayed downtown until he closed the doors. And then it was bought and used as a trinket, just whatever store, then just for storage, and had not been taken very good care of. And then, 3 sales later, it's back into my hands. Then it's back to a men's store. So it's kind of funny how the stores seem to be telling their own story, and it just keeps going back to being what it was,
Yeah.
originally. The dress shop the same way. It was actually a clothing store, and then it went to a shoe store, and then it went to a home health care office, and now it's back to a dress shop.
Very cool that the space you're in was originally a men's store. That's
Yes.
awesome. Yeah.
Yes, and actually, Mr. Cope's granddaughter and I are actually friends, and we actually went to high school together. So she comes into the store, and she even brought her mom down, to look at it because, what they remember, and it's changed a little bit, of course,
Yeah.
but they wanted to check out the
Sure.
store and reminisce, the memories of when she would be hanging out here as a child with her grandpa. So,
Oh, that's great. I mean, incorporating all of that background and history and story that makes it such a rich thing to share with people. And it sounds like you're pioneering, really. I mean, yeah, places that are revitalizing, somebody's got to go in first.
yes, and, when we started, downtown, there was Happy's. Happy's has been a staple down here for a long time, and it's, a pub and actually has really good bar food.
Nice.
And then, Foxtrot Coffee opened up 7 years ago, and we were of course, I was on the board at that time, we're like, "Oh, yay, something else, maybe that's gonna be the domino that just, like, gets everything going." And that one wasn't quite the domino that just, like, really kicked the scales, and then my friend Lee opens up a few blocks down from me, actually 2 blocks down on the corner. She opened up, a gift shop and a restaurant, a cafe, and the best food ever that you'll ever have during the day. Lunch is amazing, supper's wonderful. And then we were like, "Maybe that's gonna be the one," and, like, since then, we opened up the dress shop and now the men's store, and then one of my friends, I'm helping him, and he's opening up a bakery downtown. So, I mean, and then Tad moved in downtown. So I think now with the bakery and Tad, that's a lot that's going to get everything going.
Do all of these places have websites and things? Can we put links in the notes for all these stores?
Yes, all of them are on Facebook for sure.
Perfect. I'd love to mention them. We love our main streets, especially towns being revitalized. So let's talk about how you're doing what you do. I mean, appreciating since you're new, you're kind of evolving, and you said winging it, but I'm sure you've put some systems in place. What kind of tools and techniques are you relying on right now to run Joe Lawrence's haberdashery?
For all my counting and my inventory, we definitely fell into liking the square system. I mean,
Hmm.
I know everybody has their feelings about every different one, but I just felt more comfortable with square. I had that for the dress shop, so putting it in the men's store just made sense because they were just. I already knew how to work the system.
Yeah.
For the inventory, and some of my platforms that I order from will automatically shift my order over into two square for me. I don't even have to do anything. So that's one of the things that I use. Definitely doing research, asking the questions, looking for different lines. Asking my daughters because I have
Hmm.
2 daughters that are younger, that still live at home. So I ask them, like, what are your friends wearing? Things like that. I've got one of my daughter's friends from high school. He's actually doing like ambassador branding stuff for us. So he'll, take pictures with items, clothing, hats, stuff from the shop and tag the shop in it, to
Nice.
try
Okay,
to.
so is he doing your social posting then?
No, actually, I do all of my social media stuff, everything on Facebook and Instagram, which I have them linked. So I usually go just to Meta and pipe in one thing, and I try to plan out my week. But then, even the TikToks I've been doing myself, which still learning that whole platform.
Are you dancing?
Um, but I try to do a lot of it myself,
Yeah.
which is
Are,
crazy.
are you dancing for TikTok?
No, no,
I'm
no, I won't dance. I'll just
I'm
take
not on
pictures.
TikTok, so I don't know. All I
No,
know is people dance when they go on TikTok.
no, no, I'll just take pictures and upload it to different templates that they've already made, which makes it easier
Yeah.
for me. And then sometimes I have my daughters help if they're around. and I can get them to do something. You know how kids are.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and right now it sounds like you're communicating with your customers directly by phone when they come in. Do you have any kind of system where you're keeping track of kind of who they are, or does Square do that for you?
Square system keeps up with if it's a card. If it is a card transaction, then it always captures their name 99.9% of the time. I mean, I've had a few of them not capture the name on the card. But for the most part, a lot of the people that come in, I know personally,
Mhm.
born and raised here. And then, of course, being in real estate and property management, I mean, a lot of the attorneys or those guys that come in, I know because of having to go to court all the time with renters.
Right.
So I mean, not the best way to know them, but I mean, I know who they are. And just, being in the community, you learn who everybody is and
Yeah.
you have acquaintance with them. So
So what's your biggest challenge?
figuring out what fits the store the best,
Yeah, for
the
sure. That's the
products.
very first thing you mentioned. So
Yeah,
that's it.
that's the biggest struggle.
Yeah.
That and just getting the word out that we're here. And one of my best friends, he's actually a real estate agent. He's like, "If I wasn't friends with you, I wouldn't even know that you had it." I was like, "But I post stuff all the time." And he's like, "But you gotta do it different." And so then, it's like constructive criticism from him,
Right.
and he's like, "You need to do it this way, and you need to do this, and we need to come up with this." And the whole brand ambassador,
Mhm.
that was his idea. So we're trying it to see how that I mean, that's still freshly new, so we're trying to see how that works. I need some kind of like drive or something, I will bounce ideas off of the people that I trust.
Yeah.
We've got Christmas open house coming up extremely fast in like 2 weeks.
In the
And
store?
yes, and so
Oh,
at this and actually they do it throughout the whole town. Any business in town that wants to be a part of it, the newspaper here puts it on. But that means I have to have my whole store decorated for Christmas in November.
yes.
And that was, like, the furthest thing from my mind, and so we've been struggling, like, "Oh my gosh, what do we do in the men's store?" And no, and it's not just the men's store, I have to do the dress shop as well, so, I mean, I've got 2 big storefronts to do, and so my girl that works at the dress shop for me, she and I have been, in the basement at the men's store. We've got a basement here, so we've been in the basement, painting and glittering icicles and different things for the windows and, just trying to get everything figured out, but, whenever that stuff comes around, Tad, who has Archer, he's wonderful with ideas for the window. I mean, his windows always look on point,
Right.
and so bouncing ideas off those people, um, and then Lee, I mean, just the group of us down here that have the retail businesses, we usually just sit around and, or just in passing, we'll bounce ideas off of each other and talk, and it's just a great way to get other ideas, keep things flowing, and to support each other. So,
Right.
we're looking forward to it, though.
That peer support's really important. We've heard that from
Yes.
so many. Yeah. Even if they're different types of stores. That's great.
Y Oh, yes.
How did you decide originally to even open? You started with the prom dress resale. How did you decide to do that?
For the longest time, every Thanksgiving, we would always go out to Branson and stay at our cabin, and we would always be with our best friends who had a cabin down the hill from us. As time has gone on, we don't get to do that as often because we're both trying to grow our empires. They have an inn in
Mhm.
Mississippi that they're focusing on, and so we don't get to have as much time together anymore. But we would always go out there at Thanksgiving, and it always happened to be right before, like, basketball homecoming, the Christmas ball, or whatever at their daughter's school, and so we'd always have to take the girls to the dress shop out in Branson.
Yep.
And we realized that she had a lot of new dresses, but she was also doing some consignment. And again, it was one of those ideas that we chewed on for probably a year and a half, 2 years almost. Like, I was like, "Ooh, we could open one up in town because there's only one formal shop in town. And whenever these girls get rid of their stuff, I mean, when they're done wearing them, what do they do with them?
Mhm.
They just hang in the closet." I mean, we had a closet full because I actually have 3 daughters. 3 daughters equals a lot of dresses in a closet just hanging. And so it just came from that idea, and then when we got there, I was like, we need to offer new. I can find stuff that's still reasonable, but brand new, still good quality." I don't feel that and I get it, a lot of people can pay $1,000, but just because you can, doesn't mean you have to.
Right.
So, trying to find, dresses that are still really in style, reasonable, and priced fair to where the parents, don't feel terrible or they're not strapped paying for this kid's dress.
Right.
And prom for little girls, that's like a big, big deal. Everything's gotta be perfect, because in high school, that's their whole world. They don't know what else is out there.
Right.
And so we really love that aspect. I've had some little girls that came in that have not been able to do as much. We try to work with them and either sell at cost or donate items or whatever to help the ones that need to be helped as well. And so just seeing their joy on their face, this one little girl came in. She's like, I saw the video of your open house today, and there's this dress, and she started describing it, and I was like, and I knew which one it was. It was like a
Mhm.
dress that my daughter had worn, and I was like, oh, it's right there. And she got it, and she tried it on, and she called her mom, and she's like, Mom, it's perfect. It fits. We don't have to do anything to it. It fits me perfect. And then her mom, and I could hear her mom saying, how much is it? And then she looked at it, and I think I had the dress priced at $125. I mean, it was just nothing major.
Right.
And when she told her mom's like, "Are you serious?" And she's like, "Yes." And she's like, "Okay, well, tell her we'll come back and get it." So I just held the dress back for her, and she came back and got it, but the look on her little face was enough, to make it worth doing what we were doing.
Yeah.
And then, I had guys coming in or, and I've even had sisters reach out and say, "We're kind of on a budget. Do you have any ties?" And at the time, and then that's also where the men's store came in. And I was like, well, I mean, I do have some ties, and I actually hadn't opened the men's store front yet. And she went back there and picked one out. And I was like, and of course, they just had a
Sure.
lot of struggles. And I was like, oh, just have a good time, kid. And she's like, are you serious? I was like, yeah, just have a good time. Here's your tie. Hope you enjoy your prom. We try to make those kids' lives better
Mhm.
and trying to give them what they need and have stuff on hand. So, of course, we will expand out to probably having full-blown suits in the
Sure.
store,
Sure.
that they can buy. I mean, I hate to say you can rent a tux, and a rental for a tux is almost as buying a suit, depending on the brand.
Yeah.
So,
The relationships you have in the whole community since you were born and raised there clearly are form a basis of I don't know. I guess I feel like you're serving the community. You're building your empire, you said, which is awesome. But you're also serving your community, and those relationships seem to be really important to that.
yes, and, of course, we have, a festival downtown. There's the old train depot, which is another thing. I'm the president of the nonprofit for the old train depot. It was built in 1910, so we're in the middle of restoring it, and it's literally 2 blocks from my store. We do the cruise-ins in the summertime, which is where all the car guys get out their old cars or their new cars that they've spent money on, just whatever. And they bring out their cars, they park them on the road. Everybody walks around, looks at their cars, take pictures, and then these guys get to talk about their cars and the things that they love. So we do that every summer. And then we have a big car show in September with the big festival that's downtown. I do have a lot of irons in the fire.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds like things are going on in Poplar Bluff,
yeah,
Stephanie. I mean, come
but
on.
downtown is like where this is like the hub. I mean, 99.9% of the time, I'm usually around here somewhere. If you see my car, I'm somewhere down here. It's
Yeah.
just figuring out which
Picking
store I'm
store,
at.
picking
Um,
store.
but I mean, it's all a process of trying to get our downtown built back up and revitalized, and we are getting so, so close. There's just a few buildings that are sitting vacant and need some work.
Yeah.
So,
Opportunity for somebody.
yes, we have some great buildings that could make somebody
Yeah.
some nice cash if we could
So
just get the right people.
if you had to pick one thing that if you say you love about your men's store or your clothing store, your women's store, either way, what do you love about it?
What I love about it is my decor. So, I think I sent a picture to you of the old truck bed.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's cool.
Okay, so that truck bed is actually from a 1949 Chevy, and my husband had the truck. The frame was rusted. He could not do anything with it. He was going to fix it up, but he couldn't do anything with it because the frame was rusted. I had found a picture somewhere a long time ago, and he's like, well, we can do that. So he took the bed off, and him and my father-in-law actually made my truck bed shelving. And then they actually took the front, which I'll have to send a picture of this, but they actually took the front of it, and it sits above my doors coming in because I've got like a little platform up there. So the front of the Chevy truck sits up there with light bulbs for headlights.
Yeah.
And then we brought in my husband's 1929 Ford Roadster Deluxe. It's sitting on the floor in here. Full
That's
car. It runs. It drives.
wow.
He actually drove it in here and put it in the shop. And I would say that's probably some of my favorite things is just the way the decor has come about and just the vibe of the store and
Yeah.
the brick walls.
A lot of love and care and stories and history with everything that you're putting in there, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yeah. We are running a little bit out of time, but I have a couple of questions that I want to end with. And one is, if you think about the future, and I'm sure you're only thinking about the future since you're so new, what are you seeing sort of 2, 3, 5 years out, and how are you preparing for it?
Um, hopefully, hopefully we're still here in those if 3, 4, 5 years away. Um, just offering more services. I would love to get a gentleman that does custom suits. I would
Mhm.
love to get, a relationship with them to where they would come into the shop and actually schedule a day or 2 to where men could come in and do their custom suits, and then I just get, a little bit of a fee for doing that and let them come here, and then they go on about their way, and it gives them money, and it gives me money. It keeps me from having to have as many things on hand readily available, especially if someone's, needing a higher end suit. I would love to offer a little bit more services. We've got a lot of things planned out that we would love to implement, but it's going to be way down the line for that. And I just really hope that we grow. And I hope that the downtown grows as a whole, that we become a destination spot for everybody to come and shop and see our downtown.
And final question, why does Main Street matter?
When I was a child, a lot of these stores down here, some were locally owned and some were big names, but this is where I shopped with my grandmother
Mhm.
as a child. She would take me down here to get shoes, or we'd go to the clothing store. And I have like little bits and pieces in my memory of the stores and what they looked like back then. I was, so young. It was in the 70s, so I don't remember a whole lot. But then you also see like old pictures of downtown. And honestly, when it comes to any community, I mean, we love the big name brands, we love the big box stores. Everybody has their part to give, but as any community, everybody knows that those big name brands can close up shop and leave you with an empty building sitting in your community anytime they want. And your heart and your soul of your community is really your mom and pop, your locally owned businesses
Yeah.
in the community.
You got me teared up talking about your grandmother.
Yeah. So that's why, I mean, that's what's important to us is to make sure that, you know, we keep our community going and keep it growing in the way it needs to grow.
Yeah, that's the part I love. Thank you, Stephanie. Appreciate
You're
your
welcome.
time.
Hey, you too.
Thank you for tuning in to Main Street Matters. Hope you found today's episode insightful and inspiring. I'd love it if you would share Main Street Matters with fellow retail owners or anyone else who loves Main Street. And please subscribe so you know when the next episode drops.